to be a day where you do work. Yes, I'm going to be talking, but it's also an opportunity for you to have a time set aside for yourself to create a space where you can thrive in, where you know it's yours to have and no one else can come into that space that you have created unless you want them to. So that is my hope that you get out of this experience today. But to just kind of go for it. So thank you all for sharing. Like I mentioned, my name is Domonique. Of course, Lisa already talked about where I received my bachelor's, my master's from, and my personal favorites. I'm also a survivor advocate. I'm interested in survivor advocacy. That's also a big point of my professional favorites, as well as wellness and mindfulness, and a few other personal favorites. It's also spoken word. As you can see in the picture, that's actually a performance I did at a Take Back the Night. I love it. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to do. Of course, as well as reading Netflix, binge it all the time, and as well as planners. But before we can really get into the conversation about how to claim your space, you need to focus on how you can do great by claiming your power. Because you can't claim a space if you don't know exactly who you are as a person, or get into a mindset to where you feel powerful, you feel as if you are able to conquer anything. So today we're going to do a mantra. So if any of you have never heard of a mantra is a word or phrase that you can use that helps you feel empowered. So what I want you to do before we get into talking about claiming your space, we're going to do a mantra that focuses on claiming your power. So I want you to get comfortable. Turn off your phone if you're not utilizing it for this presentation portion, so being in the session. So turn off your phone. Get up and turn off the lights if you're in your office or at home, wherever you are, if you're able to. Get in a comfortable position. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and be present in this moment. This is your time to work on yourself, to do the things that you need to do to thrive. So just take a couple seconds and do the following instructions, and we'll get into the mantra that we'll be doing today. So I want to help you claim your power by helping you speak it into existence. So get into that comfortable position. You're welcome to unmute your mic if you also want to speak the mantra out loud with me, or you can keep yourself muted if you want, whatever is comfortable for you in this time. But there are two mantras we will be doing today. The first will focus on your path, specifically you on what you're doing right now. And the second will focus on claiming. And both are 3 sentences. You're welcome to repeat these even after this session is over. But we're going to start with the first. So repeat after me. I am on my path. I am on my journey. I am on my self-discovery. Feel it in the center of your chest. Let it spread out. Feel it warming up your body. Repeat after me again. I am on my path. I am on my journey. I am on my self-discovery. Just take a couple seconds. Let it fill you up. If any thoughts come to mind, just let them flow. But you're on your path today. You are on your own journey. You're on your own self-discovery to claim your power in this time, to claim your space. We're going to move into the second mantra that focuses on claiming. And I want you to repeat after me. I claim myself. I claim my space. I claim my power. Feel it giving you energy. Feel it making you excited for what your purpose and your passion is. We're gonna repeat it again. I claim myself. I claim my space. I power. Give it a couple more seconds. Feel it. That's you. That is you focusing on yourself right now to do the work that you need to do to feel empowered within it did before. Okay. Now bring yourselves back. Bring yourselves back. You can turn on the lights again, open your eyes. Just slowly bring yourself back. Would anyone like to share how they're feeling right now in this moment in time?
I feel powerful.
Yes. Anyone else want to share how they're feeling right now? It's good to feel powerful. It's good to feel that this is your time to focus on yourself when you've always focused on other people. This is your time for you. If anyone else doesn't want to share, then I move forward. So now that we've talked about claiming your power, let's talk about the things. So the things today are what we're going to focus on in this session. So claiming your space. What does that look like? What can it look like? What have you done? Already have that space, and how can you do it? Moving from surviving to thriving. They are two different things. And of course, it looks very different surviving this year, given 2020 and all the wonderful things that have happened. We're going to discuss obstacles to success. So yes, you want to move to a place from where you're surviving to you're thriving, but what are challenges that can come into place? And how to incorporate mindfulness into your daily work so that you are feeling energized, you're feeling empowered to do the things that you're doing, whether personal or and the things you want out of life. So let's get into claiming your space. So this is the opportunity for you to think about what can your space look like. So look around. Do you have a space in your home to work? If so, is it a good location to thrive? Do you prefer to work at home or in different locations? Sometimes home is busy and you want to get out of that space and just have a quiet moment, especially if you have a family, a partner, or whatever your life may look like. Does anyone else have access to your space? Is it just a room for you to do whatever you need to do, whether that's work or meditation, yoga, or exercise? Does anyone else have access to the space that you are utilizing? What are the essentials? Do you have the essentials for what you need? How do you get your family to respect your space that you have created so that you are able to thrive in it? So these are some questions I want you to keep in mind as we do this next portion. So think about, where is your space at home if you already have one? And if not, what can it look like? Picture it. What are the essentials? What can they be? And what are some ways you can get your family to respect the space? So I want you to imagine your space. Take 5 minutes right now, write it down. You can write it, you can draw out your space if you want, but just take the next 5 minutes and think about, what does your space look like? What do you need to create it? What will prevent you from creating that space? So just take the next 5 minutes and write down whatever comes to mind for the ideal space that you want for yourself. I'm going to play some music in the background. That way I can focus, but this next 5 minutes is for you to focus on imagining what your space looks like. All right. Give everyone a couple more seconds to write down, think about what they see when they imagine their space. Is it a room in your home? Is it space on your outside on your patio? If you have one, is it going to a local coffee shop? Sometimes it's that for me. So what does it look like for you? What can prevent you from creating your space? So right now I would like 2 or 3 people, if you feel comfortable, sharing. You can unmute your mic, what your space looks like for you. Or you can post it in the chat as well if you want to do that.
I'll unmute and share if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Y'all are more than welcome to share.
And actually, I've got my camera on so you can see a little bit of my space. With zooming so much and looking at myself and my space on the screen, I decided to paint just the wall behind me because that was all I had time to do, just for some color, and it's made a difference in how I feel when I'm zooming. And I also, put some artwork there, so that's what I see when I'm at my computer all day. So that's been helpful. Even my goal is to paint the rest of the walls in the room over winter break, but just that little pop of color made me feel a lot better.
So designing, adding things that make you feel cheerful, exciting when you're zooming all day. It's like, okay, I'm going to add a pop of color in my life. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
My space, not this office that I'm in right now, because we're in the midst of a move.
So it's
all disarray. Hey, my space at home, I do have a room to myself. It helped me to bring my yoga stuff in there. I usually do it in the living room so I can do it with my partner so we can be together. So I just leave it there. But I've been leaving it in my space, and I found that I do Pilates more throughout the day when I'm working from home. So just keeping little cozy, comfortable things, but also keeping some fitness things in my space kind of help keep me balanced.
Great, thank you for sharing. So we have someone who utilizes a space where they're able to do some mindfulness practices or more physical wellness in terms of yoga and meditation. So that's something that you can also use. You can utilize more than one space for one thing. So if you know that you're someone who likes to exercise, maybe that's utilizing a treadmill while also on a Zoom meeting during that time. So you're able to, one, get your physical wellness by also still actively participating in the work things that you're doing. I would like one more person to share what their space looks like. If you already don't have one already, what do you want it to look like? And what are some things that could possibly prevent you from creating that space? Okay. Well, if no one else wants to share, I'm going to share with you some experiences of others. So these are a few testimonials or experiences from those who have created created their own spaces at home. So for one person, she worked with her partner to reorganize a room, and they took out all the things that they didn't need. So that wasn't helping them for what they wanted to do, and they made it more functional. For another person. And these are all women who work in higher education in some form or fashion, whether in residence life, admissions, as professors. For one woman, she purchased a computer chair. Her essentials that she utilized for her space was a printer, textbooks, because she's currently working on her dissertation, a Keurig. So if you don't have one, that's an option for you to utilize in your space, or if not, bottled water to make sure she stayed hydrated throughout the day, and any office supplies that she needed. For another person, they set up an office space at their kitchen table because for them, that's the most functional. This person works in residence life, but she decided that even though she does live where she works, I can understand the feeling, but she wanted a space within her home to where she can be productive. So these are just a few examples of what your space can look like for you. I know some of you do have family and children, so that is something that you would need to navigate around. And my recommendation for those of you who do is like talking to your partner, if you have one, of okay, how can we both thrive in this place, but also how do we keep the kids entertained in their own space in the home, if you have one, to where they are not within your space when you're doing things, when you're working or on Zoom calls for that. So thank you all for sharing. And like I said, these are just a few experiences. So now that we've talked about claiming your space and what that can look like and some obstacles, so possible obstacles are, of course, other people utilizing your space. It can be maybe Wi-Fi issues, or if you're someone who likes to work outside of home. Of course, we're in Kentucky. A few of you might be in Kentucky, and right now we can't really sit in coffee shops or anything of that sort. But when that does happen, we're able to go back to that. Then that might be something to utilize for yourself. But now that we're talked about claiming your space, in order to get to that place, you also have to have an understanding of what you're experiencing when you're surviving versus thriving. So surviving is continuing to live or exist during a difficult hardship or circumstance. For some of us, that might be the whole year of 2020. For others, it might not. But we want to move from a place of surviving to thriving. And thriving is prospering in a time that promotes growth and development and success. So even though difficult situations are happening, you're still able to be in a place within yourself or within a space you have created physically or hypothetically, where you are able to take the experience but grow from it. So seeing what can I get out of what is happening. And sometimes that also takes utilizing your strengths. So how can you, as someone, maybe if you're a crafty person, even though life is not for you what was normal, how can you use your talents as a crafter to make a place for yourself? And maybe that is painting a wall in your home to where you can be, it's a pop of color during a Zoom meeting. Or it can be, if you know for you, doing exercising is something that you enjoy. Okay, how can you incorporate that into what you're doing in your daily work? So that's just two definitions of surviving and thriving and what those can look like. But yeah, let's actually talk about what does it look like. So for surviving, it's reacting rather than responding to situations as they occur. So it's fearing failure. It can also look like focusing on the task and not yourself. So you get to work, you have this long to-do list of things you need to do, and you're focused on getting the task completed, but you're so focused on the work that you forget or have to ask yourself, did I eat today? Did I eat lunch? Have I taken a break? I've been in my office all day. Have I gone outside? Have I talked to any of my coworkers? Have I talked to anyone today besides just doing my work? And that can contribute to disconnecting from others. Have you talked to your family? Have you had an opportunity to physically distance yourself from others if you're deciding to hang out with friends? Have you tapped into those personal connections you've had? When was the last time you did something for yourself that wasn't simply getting up and doing the things? But that can also be a part of thriving as well. So when you're thinking about thriving, think of PERMA. So PERMA is a phrase that focuses on thriving. So PERMA means positive emotions, engagement and flow, positive relationships, meaning and accomplishment. For the positive relationships, part of that, are you surrounding yourself with people who make you feel happy, empowered, who energize you, who pour into you as a person? Do you realize that you're around people who are negative feelings or actions all the time? If that's so, it's okay to distance yourself. If you work with them, then there's ways to go about that to where you are able to protect your energy, protect your time, protect your energy as you go about things. And positive emotions is a big part of thriving. Doing activities that make you feel excited. So whether that's exercising, whether that's talking on the phone with a close friend from back home that you know, maybe that's shopping online as you do the things. So that's what thriving can look like for some of you, or if you haven't experienced that. Do any of these resonate with any of you? Have any of you experienced some of the things for surviving? And if so, how have you worked to where you can get into a place where you're thriving? If anyone would like to share at this time. Are any of you in a place of where you're surviving?
I think for me, if I may, some of the things in the thriving category have made surviving possible during 2020.
Okay.
Like, I'll go for a walk and talk to a friend, and that engagement and relationship is really helpful as far as just making it through the day-to-day of being at home with my kids and working and schooling and life all in one small space. Is a lot, and all of the other things going on outside of our house is a lot, and just having some of the thriving things, I don't feel like I'm thriving, but I feel like I am surviving better because of them, or because of those thriving skills.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Were you surprised by some of the things of what surviving looks like, or are you in a place where you're thriving and didn't realize it?
I'll go ahead and share if that's okay.
Yes.
I think a couple of us are saying in the chat that it feels like we've been in survival mode for a lot of the last 9 months, and that it sort of fluctuates depending on the day or the week. And I think, just like Kristen said, I've had to pivot to doing things that help with thriving in some ways to survive, but then that means maybe not getting as much done for work, because I'm having to be really intentional and spend more time doing things that that promote positive emotions, or that help me engage, or that like I have to be more intentional about focusing on relationships because of the pandemic. So I think it in order to thrive and not survive, like to find it, I feel like it's a process of like constantly having to remind myself to do things to help me thrive, and to like be aware of when I'm in survival mode, if that makes sense.
Yes. So yeah, I definitely can empathize with you. For me, it's definitely felt like I've been in surviving mode, working around life, doing the things, trying to manage a building of 600 plus people, and also my staff, and also try to figure out, have I done anything for myself in a while? I wake up, go to my office, realize 9 to 5, I'm in my office, but have I been outside today? That was a question I had to ask myself almost every single day for almost like 2 months. And then I realized, okay, what does Dominique do for herself? because we get burnt out focusing on others, and doing the relationship piece of are people okay? That we tend to not focus on what we need sometimes. And that are some things that you have to think about when it comes to what are your obstacles to moving from a place from surviving to thriving. For some, it might be that life situations occur and happen. So those are a few that can become obstacles to success. And that is fear of success or letting down others. So for some of you mentioned having children, it might feel that maybe you're letting down your kids because you're not able to give them the normal schedule that they are used to and that you are used to. It might be believing you are not capable. And for some, I believe most people attending the session today are women, so the imposter syndrome might come into play. It could be unexpected life circumstances. We're in a pandemic right now. COVID is a thing that is happening. And some of you might be experiencing family members who have contracted the virus and figuring out how do you navigate that. Fear of living up to your potential is also an obstacle of success. You're able and capable of doing great things, but sometimes the fear of living up to your greatness can also prevent you from doing it. It can also be a lack of support, whether that's from coworkers or peers. It can be a lack of guidance from your supervisor. We're all trying to figure out, what does life look like for us right now? How do we figure out how to work from home? How do we set up a space at home so we can work so that we can thrive? It can also be difficulty adjusting to new processes or procedures. So we're all adjusting to living in life now where we're mostly on Zoom for almost 8 hours a day for some of us, or 12 hours, depending on what our work looks like. So it's figuring out how do you go from doing in-person interactions to now having to navigate doing everything over Zoom and having to develop interactions to get the same thing you would for in-person. So here are a couple experiences from others with obstacles that they have faced during this time when creating their space to work remotely. For some, it was a mental health issue. So having that one friend that they were dependent on, and now both people aren't able to see each other as much. And so it's like, okay, they were introverted. So how do I go from having this one person I relied on a lot for my social interaction to now we can't see each other as much because we're working separately, we're working different hours. For others, it is longer hours, increased virtual events, weeks and weekends. For one person, an obstacle was doing weekly reports and having to account for the hours that they spent doing tasks. So that wasn't a norm. It was a new procedure and having to do that, a new process, and having to do that when that wasn't the typical norm for them when they did in-person work. So those were just a few obstacles for some people in regards to that. So now that we've talked about the obstacles, we've talked about creating your space. Let's focus on minding. So mind your mind and how to incorporate mindfulness into your daily work. So what is mindfulness? We talk about it, we mention it all the time, but what exactly is it? So mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. So it is being present in the moment as things occur. So not focusing on what is going to happen in the future or focusing on the past of what has happened, but what can you do right now in this moment in time? What can it look like? Because your mindfulness matters. So mindfulness, some tips that you can utilize in your daily work or life is mindful check-ins. So check in and see how you're feeling mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. If you are someone who has a specific religious faith or belief, have you done any of those practices? Have you been physically active to where you were before COVID happened? And if not, how do you get back to that place? That could be scheduling time to exercise or to find a workout buddy to do things with. Mentally, how are you feeling? Do you feel yourself drained? Is it harder to think or focus on daily tasks? Mindful morning mantras. So you can utilize the ones that we use today. Mindful showers. So if you're someone who, whether you like to shower in the morning or at night, that's a time for you where you're in your shower and no one else is there, and you're just able to focus on what comes to mind while you clean and nurture in your body. Intention setting. So if you're someone who loves to-do lists, let's also focus on something to be. So what do you want to be that day? Do you want to be the person who makes sure that you clock out at 5 p.m. and your day is over, you're done, you're not doing any other work? Is it 5 p.m. is your cutoff time to where you won't answer any emails? If you're someone who loves writing, I know I do, you might decide to start doing a gratitude journal. So identifying something or someone you are grateful for or increase life satisfaction. So those are a few things that you can do in terms of practicing mindfulness. For some, in regards to their experiences for it, there's one person who takes daily walks during their lunch break or after work just to walk around the neighborhood and get that physical exercise. For some, it's retail therapy and shopping online and baking. And this person has 2 new newborns in their family, so seeing those lovely baby faces. Where for someone else, it is exercising and doing it consistently since August. And they found it to be great for their physical and emotional well-being. So as we come to the end today of this session, I want to leave you with this quote. Because of course, as mentioned earlier, I'm a quotey, I love quotes. I was made to be wild, wicked, and free, to carve out my own crazy destiny, to find a place in this world where I can be the most authentic version of me, by Christiane Martin. So I hope today that you take this quote and apply it to your life, however it may look like for you. So this is a chance, an opportunity for you to hopefully affirm that your destiny is in your hands. Creating your space is feasible. It is available for you to do so because you are the only person who can tell you no. And so I hope that this session has been helpful by hearing other people's experiences, encounters, what they have done to begin the work to creating a space for yourself and figuring out what are the essentials, what do you need to be successful? And if you are surviving, how can you get to a place that you're thriving based on the things that you find fulfilling? And maybe removing certain things or people out of your life that have not contributed to your success for you to be in a good place.